A moment of wordless communication passed between us. He realized that he knew that he was keeping something from me. I realized that he wasn't going to give anything away. Not now. So what was Carlisle telling you before? His eyebrows pulled together. You noticed that, did you? I shrugged. Of course. He looked at me thoughtfully for a few seconds before answering. He wanted to tell me some news. He didn't know if it was something that I would share with you. Will you? I have to, because I'm going to be a little overbearingly protective over the next few days or weeks. And I wouldn't want you to think that I'm naturally a tyrant. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong exactly. Alice just sees some visitors coming soon. They know we're here, and they're curious. Visitors? Yes, well, they aren't like us, of course, in their hunting habits, I mean. They probably won't come into town at all. And I'm certainly not going to let you out of my sight until they're gone. I shivered. Finally, a rational response, he murmured. I was beginning to think you had no sense of self-preservation at all. I let that one pass, looking away, my eyes wandering again around the spacious room. He followed my gaze. Not what you expected, is it? He asked, his voice smug. No, I admitted. No coffins, no piled skulls in the corners. I don't even think we have cobwebs. What a disappointment this must be for you, he continued slyly. I ignored his teasing. It's so light, so open. He was more serious when he answered. It's the one place we never have to hide. The song he was still playing, my song, drifted to an end, the final chord shifting to a more melancholy key. The last note hovered poignantly in the silence. Thank you, I murmured. I realized there were tears in my eyes. I dabbed at them, embarrassed. He touched the corner of my eye, trapping what I missed. He lifted his finger, examining the drop of moisture broodingly. Then, so quickly I couldn't be positive that he really did, he put his finger to his mouth to taste it. I looked at him questioningly, and he gazed back for a long moment before he finally smiled. Do you want to see the rest of the house? No coffins, I verified, the sarcasm in my voice not entirely masking the slight but genuinely anxiety that I felt. He laughed, taking my hand, leading me away from the piano. No coffins, he promised. We walked up the massive staircase, my hands trailing along the satin-smooth rail. The long hall at the top of the stairs was paneled with the honey-colored wood, the same as the floorboards. Rosalie and Emmett's room, Carlisle's office, Alice's room. He gestured as he led me past the doors. He would have continued, but I stopped dead at the end of the hall, staring incredulously at the ornament hanging on the wall above my head. Edward chuckled at my bewildered expression. You can laugh, he said. It is sort of ironic. I didn't laugh. My hand raised automatically, one finger extended as if to touch the large wooden cross, its dark patina contrasting with the darker patina of the wall. I didn't touch it, though I was curious if the aged wood would feel as silky as it looked. It must be very old, I guessed. He shrugged. Early 1630s, more or less. I looked away from the cross to stare at him. Why do you keep this here? I wondered. Nostalgia. It belonged to Carlo's father. He collected antiques? I suggested doubtfully. No, he carved this himself. It hung on the wall above the pulpit in the vicarage where he preached. I wasn't sure if my face portrayed my shock, but I returned to gazing at the simple ancient cross just in case. I quickly did the mental math. The cross was over 370 years old. The silence dragged on as I struggled to wrap my mind around the concept of so many years. Are you all right? He sounded worried. How old is Carlisle? I asked quietly, ignoring his question, still staring up. He just celebrated his 362nd birthday, Edward said. I looked back at him, and a million questions in my eyes. He watched me carefully as he spoke. Carlyle was born in London in the 1640s, he believes. Time wasn't marked as accurately then as the common people, for the common people anyway. It was just before Cromwell's rule, though. I kept my face composed, aware of his scrutiny as I listened. It was easier if I didn't try to believe. He was the only son of an Anglican pastor. His mother died giving birth to him. His father was an intolerant man. As the Protestants came into power, he was enthusiastic in his persecution of Roman Catholics and other religions. He also believed very strongly in the reality of evil. He led hunts for witches, werewolves, and vampires. I grew very still at the word. I'm sure he noticed, but he went on without pausing. They burned a lot of innocent people. Of course, the real creatures that he sought were not so easily to catch. When the pastor grew old, he placed his obedient son in charge of the raids. At first, Carlo was a disappointment. He was not quick to accuse, to see demons where they did not exist, but he was persistent and more clever than his father. He actually discovered a coven of true vampires that lived hidden in the sewers of the city, only coming out by night to hunt. In those days, when monsters weren't just myths and legends, that was the way many lived. The people gathered their pitchforks and torches, of course. His brief laugh was darkened, and waited where Carlyle had seen the monsters exit into the street. Eventually, one emerged. His voice was very quiet. I strained to catch the words. He must have been ancient, or weak with hunger. Carlyle heard him call out in Latin to the others when he caught the scent of the mob. He ran through the streets, and Carlyle, he was 23 and very fast, was in the lead of the pursuit. The creature could have easily outrun them, but Carlyle thinks he was too hungry, so he turned and attacked. He fell on Carlyle first, but the others were close behind, and he turned to defend himself. He killed 2 men and made off with the third, leaving Carlyle bleeding in the street. He paused. I could sense he was editing something, keeping something from me. Carlyle knew what his father would do. The bodies will be burned. Anything infected by the monster must be destroyed. Carlyle acted instinctively to save his own life. He crawled away from the alley while the mob followed the fiend and his victim. He hid in a cellar, buried himself in rotting potatoes for 3 days. It was a miracle he was able to keep silent, to stay undiscovered. It was over then, and he realized what he had become. I'm not sure what my face was revealing, but he suddenly broke off. "How are you feeling?" he asked. "I'm fine," I assured him, and though I bit my lip in hesitation, he must have seen the curiosity burning in my eyes. He smiled. "I expect you have a few more questions for me?" "A few." His smile widened over his brilliant teeth. He started back down the hall, pulling me along by the hand. "Come on then," he encouraged. "I'll show you."